speaking of upcoming shows, the next show in the rotation for today is Grandmother Rae, a very good friend of mine, and she is also a part of our company, Classic Communications. She's the chief operating officer of that company. But Grandmother Rae has many talents, and for those of you who haven't watched her show, you're in for a real treat. Please welcome Grandmother Rae. Hello, Rae. How are you?
Good morning, Guy. I'm fabulous. How are you today?
I am amazing. And boy, you have really brought a unique energy to our network. Will you share with the audience what your show is all about?
So, by lineage, I am a pipe carrier grandmother of the Bird Clan Cherokee tribe. And for those who are not familiar with that, it's a medicine woman. In our tradition, the grandmother walks all the realms for the benefit of her tribe. And I see everyone as my tribe. So that's kind of my passion. My mission and my vision is to assist everyone who is looking for guidance, looking for healing, looking for someone just to listen, even. And that's what I do. And through that, I have studied because I love to learn new things. And so I've studied a large number of modalities to help people, everything from psychology and life coaching to Ayurveda and acupressure. And I just put those into my medicine bag. And then as people need assistance and they come to me for help, then I help them as I can.
Yes, and the concepts and just the things that you touch on with your show, Grandmother Rae, are so impactful. We live in a world where everything seems to appear on the surface. It's always, for most of us, it's, I mean, I guess this is just a natural part of being a human, is you're just thinking about what you see. And
Right.
one of the things that I enjoy about your show is that you go deeper into the meaning of our existence. Would you like to touch on that with really quickly before I get you ready to run your own show?
Absolutely. So for me, I was born remembering that my first language is energy. And so for me, everything that we see on a third dimensional level, I see the energy behind it. And so for me, that means that instead of seeing just the surface, then I can not only can I see below that surface to the deeper lying energies that are going on, but I can assist typically anyone else with finding those things that they've hidden from themselves and those things that are blocking them. And what I love about the opportunity to have my podcast with PR Connections, that it's a vehicle for me to bring topics to people that they ask me these questions. I have people asking me questions all the time, and the show today is a result of that. And so I share with that person, or two or three people ask me in a row, and I'll share with them my guidance on that. And so the podcast really gives me a platform for me to be able to share that with more people. And that's what I really, truly appreciate about this.
Well, all of you out there are going to get a chance to be touched by the essence of Grandmother Rae. Please welcome Grandmother Rae and the Grandmother Rae podcast. See you soon.
Thank you, Guy. I appreciate you so much. So, the episode today is a result of a question that has been coming to me for decades. Even before I began publicly practicing my holistic practice, I would get this question, and I ended up writing a workbook and taking people through a workshop with it. And so the title for the episode today is As You Love Yourself. And before we dive in to this topic, what I would like to do is pause for a moment, because one of the things that we do as humans is we tend to go through the moments, but how present are we? And I would like for us to all be present in this moment so that our being can really take in every bit of the information and the energy that benefits us on all levels. So let's take just a moment and let's focus in on our breath. And we're not trying to change it, we're just allowing it and observing it. And with our inhalation, we set the intention to be here now. Just be here now. Awesome. And remember, that's something that you can do at any time. If you catch yourself racing ahead of the moment, all you need to do is pause and breathe and make that choice. Choice is a superpower. Use it. So let's dive in. The common question that got this started was, I'm not even going to tell how many decades ago, but the question was, how do I find love? How do I find real love, the love that I'm looking for? And typically the person would go on and start describing things. And spoiler alert, it all begins with you. Because as you love yourself, so too you love and you receive love. So what I like to do is begin with, what did love look like in your formative years? Because research shows that 95 to 97% of the life experience that we have throughout our lives is formed by age 5 to 7. Now, some of those things we remember and we have access to consciously. A lot of it, a majority of it, we hide from ourselves. We take these things on as beliefs and truths in our psyche, in our subconscious, and we're not even aware of it, but we are living our life based upon this information. So the first thing I like to do is I like to ask you and myself. Believe me, I do this self stuff for myself too, because I'm human too. So let's take a moment and say, what did love look like from age 5 and before, or age 7 and before, or even age 10 and before? What did love look like? What type of love was modeled for me during those formative years? What did it look like? More importantly, what did it feel like? So this is the first thing that I invite you to really look into and feel into. And then from there, now that you're older, now that you're asking the question, what does love look like? How do I find love? Well, in order to find the love that you're really desiring, what does it look like? What does it feel like to you? Is it conditional? Is it unconditional? What does unconditional feel like? What does it look like? How do you feel and touch and perceive and receive and offer that love? And the next thing that I would often do is I'd say, okay, now let's look at listing all the ways that you desire to receive love. Because at that point, people are typically getting into, and I know I do the same thing, we're typically getting into Well, love looks like ABC, and love looks like this, and love feels like this. This is the kind of love I want. This is what I want to receive from someone else. And so I would encourage you to make a list. What does the love that you're looking for feel like? What does it look like? How does it make you feel? And when you're offering it to someone else, how does that make you feel? So make your list and create this list of, this is what I desire love to look like. This is what I desire love to feel like. And this is how I desire to feel when I offer my love to someone else. And we're not just talking about romantic relationships, and we're talking about relationships with everyone. We're talking about interactions. For me, it is as rewarding as, not rewarding, rewarding's not a really, it is as fulfilling for me to be in a checkout line at a grocery and have a person who obviously is having a tough day, and to smile at them and just fill my being with love, unconditional, total, radiant love, and let that radiate out so that they can feel that energy. And then just watch them as they choose to receive it, and a smile comes on their face and they feel better than they did before. So when we're talking about love, it's not just about a romantic relationship with someone. It's very much about a relationship with yourself and with everything around you. And most importantly, with yourself. Because here is what I have noticed. When you've made that list, look at, am I doing that for myself? I know the first time I did this, I would have, if I'd been in school, I would have gotten a big red F because I was doing none of it. So as I started doing this list for myself, it was amazing how everything shifted outside of me. You know, if you ever want to make a change in your outside work, do the inside work. It works every time. So from your list, go into, how am I showing myself this kind of love? And if you're not doing a really great job, like I wasn't the first time I did it, then make a commitment to yourself. You know, choose, use that superpower of choice and choose to start loving yourself that way, and see how it changes your external world when you start loving yourself. Quick question. When is the last time that you hugged yourself really tight and just said, oh, I love you so much? It really feels awesome. And what it does is it allows you to open yourself up and receive that love. At first, for me, it was really, really hard, and it was really, really weird because of the way that I was raised and what love looked like when I was growing up. But now, as you can see, I've gotten pretty good at it. So how are you loving yourself? Because it all begins with you. What I've seen for decades, and I've even proven this fact myself, only as much as, I'm going to use myself, okay? Only as much as I am willing to receive unconditional love, that pure love that we know exists, but we don't see very often in this world. As I love myself, only in that much am I able to receive from someone else. And I'll give you an example. I've worked with people, and I've even been this person in my life, where I had programming from childhood that said that I was unlovable, that no one could ever love me, that it was impossible because of how I was, because I wasn't what I was expected to be. I don't know how many of you out there, I've worked with enough people to know I'm not the only one in the world that has grown up with that message. And what I would say to you, if you're still in that place, it's absolutely possible to shift that thinking, to speak to yourself, and to open up and receive unconditional love and believe that I am lovable and I am worthy of divine unconditional love. It's absolutely possible. So, are you loving yourself in the ways that you would like to be loved by others? Because it all starts with you. If you are still holding on to the remnants, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, when you're still holding on to those remnants of not being worthy of love, of being unlovable, then what happens is people come along, either in intimate relationships or friendships or interactions in the store. They come along and they see your light, that divine spark in you, and they would like to offer you love, and they try to offer you love, but because you still have this point of view, this belief that you're unlovable, you can't see it. Or if you see it, you reject it because it doesn't fit with your truth. Now, here's the thing about our brains. Our brains continually look for those things that we believe to be true. And our whole system is constantly trying to prove us right. So whatever I believe, my whole being is looking out for evidence. So if I believe that I'm not lovable, then I'm constantly looking for evidence. Conversely, when I heal that, when I shift that point of view, when I change that belief system to I am lovable and I am worthy of unconditional love, then I'm always seeing it coming at me from all directions. So the one thing that I would leave you with today as we get ready to close is that when you're considering whether it's love or whether it's abundance or whatever it is, always, always remember that everything starts with you. Whatever your internal landscape looks like, the external landscape is going to reflect that. It's going to be a mirror for you. Why? There's a lot of stuff going on out there, and you can get a lot of answers, but here's the simple one for me. Here's the simple one for me. Whatever I believe is what I perceive, because my being is doing its very level best to prove me right all the time. So if I believe that I'm lovable, I'm going to find that in my external world, because my internal world is looking for it and finding it. If I believe I'm unlovable, then I will find evidence for that. So you are so powerful because you have the power of choice. You have the power to shift your old belief systems, create new belief systems, and begin finding and receiving the evidence of those new truths within you. So as you go through the next few days, if you would like, I would encourage you to make your list, to consider what love looks like to you. What does it feel like to you? What it is that you are looking for outside of you must begin inside of you. And as you do that, as you love yourself, you open to receive, and you begin looking for and finding that which you are seeking. There's an old saying, that which you seek is seeking you. And it's true. And that's how powerful you are. So remember, as you love yourself, so you will find love and offer love. And with that, I bid you farewell for now. And you can find me online at Rae Everlasting. Namaste.
Namaste, Rae. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. For a lot of our viewers out there, maybe who haven't watched your show or are not even familiar with this frame of thinking, what's a good starting point for a person who just wants to get more centered in their lives, who want to take on a more peaceful perspective when they're dealing with themselves and with others?
That's a really great question, Guy. The starting point for me, and the starting point when I'm working with someone, is empowerment. Because until we remember that we are powerful divine beings, the rest is hard, difficult, challenging. It's a struggle. There's all these words that people use. When we remember our divine power, our birthright as divine beings in these human forms, then that empowerment allows us to look at things differently. Having lived through abuse and coming through to the other side, there's victim mentality and there's empowered mentality. And so to come into that place of empowerment, self-empowerment, then that really gives you the capacity to do all the things, the breath work, the meditation, the yoga, the tai chi, whatever it is that you're trying to do in order to restore balance and harmony within. Those can be very effective without the empowerment aspect. But from my experience over the decades, when you start with the self-empowerment, you bring your power back in, you own it, you claim it, you own it, you live it, you breathe it. When you do that, then everything else is amplified. Everything else that you externally do in order to bring that balance in your life is amplified when you have that internal remembrance and claiming and embracing and embodying being that empowered divine being that you are.
Right. Just in, embracing who you are. And I think that for the type of energy that you put off with this array, and that reason why I think you connect so well with people is because you truly have found ways to adapt your beingness in order to be able to exude what it is that you're exuding, so that you got me in a meditative state. I'm sitting backstage, and I've been meditating for many, many years. I think I started meditating in 1997. And,
nice.
And I remember when I first started meditating, and I would just try to sit and be still. I could only do it for about a minute because I just had so many thoughts racing. but for you, yeah, you just so exude, and then of course it gets better, right? It gets better over
It does.
time, and
And to be completely honest, when I first started meditating was after my near death experience in 2005. And the thought of sitting and being still and trying not to think for any length of time at all was just like, not happening. Ain't going to happen. So that's where I found Tai Chi and Qigong, because, and yoga does the same thing for me. Any movement that, or, in fact, anything that that we are so focused on that everything else disappears and falls away. This is meditation. So whether I'm washing dishes, I tell the story. I was washing dishes when the boys were growing up and they wouldn't leave me alone. And I said, we don't have enough room in the dishwasher. I'm going to wash dishes by hands. And everybody disappeared and it was quiet. And I was like, yes, yay. And so dishes became my meditation, because all the boys would just go to the room and hide so they didn't have to help. And I would have peace and quiet. It was awesome. So for me, meditation is more than just sitting down and trying not to think. It's what activity can I do that allows me to let everything fall away and I can just be there in that moment and enjoy that moment. That's meditation.
you're absolutely right, Grandmother Rae. One of my experiences similar to that is sweeping and mopping floors. I get so centered in that activity, the whole process of it, the sweeping and then picking up the trash and then bringing in the mop, and the result that you create while you're in this frame of mind, it's very constructive. It's just, yes, there are so many activities out there that will help you to get in touch with who you are, beyond just, of course, the actual process of sitting and doing a meditation. For some people, they're never going to. They have other ways that they're meditating and that they're centering themselves. And
Right.
They don't necessarily even realize that that's what they're doing.
Right. And there again, I go back to once you're doing these external things to restore balance and harmony within and find your center, when you have laid that foundation of self-empowerment, of self-love, then it amplifies everything that you do externally.
Absolutely. And as I had mentioned before we started the podcast today, our company, Classy Communications, which is a sponsor of PRConnectionsRadio.com, Grandmother Rae is actually the chief operating officer for our company. And tell us, Grandmother Rae, what in your background? So we've talked about this kind of abstract connection that you have with the universe, not really abstract, but on a different level. And
Right.
Yet at the same time, you have this capacity to be able to be the COO of a public relations and marketing company that we've been running for 15 years. Tell us about that contrast. How do you go from being this person that's very connected on the spiritual realm with the spiritual realm of business, which is much more factual and
Right.
concrete? How do you create that type of balance?
Actually, it is my balance. And I get that question a lot. They're like, oh, you're off over here in the spiritual realm and you're doing all this stuff. How does that fit in? Well, that's my grounding, because we are spiritual beings, but we are in this third dimensional realm that is very solid. And because of the way my brain is wired, I worked for 2 years with a brain research group in Oklahoma. And because of the way my brain is wired, I'm very close to 50-50. So I love that right brain, abstract, nonlinear thinking. But my left brain loves that research, loves to do systems analysis, all those very logical linear processes. And so it is my grounding, because if all I was doing was being out here in the ether all the time, it would leave less of me here on the ground to do the work that I'm here to do. And so I love that I get to work with you and the rest of our classy team. But I also just so greatly appreciate that I have this gift of having my ether and my spiritual part that I'm nourishing and feeding, and this human part of myself that I'm feeding and nourishing. So
Yes, it's one of the things that when I first met you and we started working together on things, I had mentioned that I knew a lot of light workers, and that one of the challenges that a lot of light workers have is this ability to bring themselves back to centering because of what it takes to be a light worker. And
right.
I have found that in you, Grandmother Rae, is that you are, yeah, you are where you are when you're there. That I
Exactly.
definitely see that in you, and it's a superpower. I really it's something that I greatly admire, is that again you can go from doing that type of podcast that you just did to the very analytical, linear aspect of what we do in running this company.
Right. And it feeds both sides of me, so it keeps me centered.
Well, Grandmother Rae, excellent podcast for today. Will you let the audience know when you're on the air?
I am on the air the first Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific on PR Connections Radio Live and all the platforms that we feed into on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then I also put the video up on my YouTube channel at Rae Everlasting, so that you can watch on demand if you cannot make it live.
And again, we love the healing energy that Grandmother Rae is bringing to the network. And I encourage you all, if you want to get into the oasis of serenity during one of your days that might be more hectic, check out one of Grandmother Rae's shows. You can find bliss in very, very narrow places, just like a podcast. Again, we have a lot of contrast, as you know, on this network, and you really exemplify that. Keep doing up the great work, Grandmother Rae, with the Grandmother Rae podcast.
Thank you very much, Guy. I appreciate you.
All right, so we are going to head into our next podcast for today.